Hello and welcome to the Last Word on Spurs. We are, of course, your multi-award winning Tottenham Hotspur podcast. We're back. We are in the January transfer window. Don't let your eyes, your ears, or what you're hearing or seeing deceive you. We are apparently in the January transfer window, and these are the graveyard shifts. We're joined by three great, fabulous, regular returning guests to Last Word on Spurs. If I get the words out. Trying to. I'm going to guide and see you through exactly where Spurs are in this market. We're joined by Luke over at Spotlight on Spurs. Ash is back from Spurs Kings TV. And one man is about to get his credit used right up during this January transfer window. Connor's back, Leavionomics 1882. As we, like I say, keep you inundated with all the very latest during Tottenham's pursuit during this January transfer window. If you can for us out there, like, hype, subscribe to the show. That'd be greatly appreciated. Follow these wonderful gentlemen on their specific platforms. And we're going to take you right through into the latest news of this January transfer window and where Spurs are at. And of course, build up to Bournemouth to come for Tottenham Hotspur back in the Premier League. In 24 hours, we've just seen bad news for Tottenham on the Mohamed Kudus front. Obviously, we were waiting to find out the extent of the severity of the damage that's been caused to Mo following a scan that took place only a couple of days ago. It's understood to be bad news for Tottenham, and he has suffered a serious injury, and we await to find out the extent of damage, but we're told it's not a short-term blow. So what does that mean for Tottenham? Well, they are expected to be building up potentially now to looking to bring in at least a forward during this January transfer window, at a time where Tottenham are also once again looking to put another bid in for the Santos defender Souza, where Spurs are intent as things stand to try and get their man. And we're bringing you the latest on their pursuit of the young defender. There's links also to Baleba, of course, highly popular midfielder, and one that would be, you've got to say, unbelievable. Tottenham do pull it off in Nico Williams being linked to the football club. But as we mentioned, Tottenham firmly on the striker hunt. We're going to open, if we can, from Connor on this show. Con, love to you back on. It'd be fair to say that when we do have minor concerns as Spurs fans, that normally when we're told it's just a knock, we know it's not just a knock. But to be fair, Mo Kudus, I think we saw when he was coming off at the weekend, it didn't look good on first viewing. We knew he was going for a scan, and it looks like it's bad news for Tottenham in the case that this guy could be out for quite a long period of time. How much does that already ramp up the pressure if there wasn't already to do business during this transfer window for you, Connor?
Good to be on. Nice to be on with Luke and Ash as well. Nice to see you again, Rick, and good to see everyone in the chat. Yeah, I think look, it was always going to happen, wasn't it? As soon as we sold Johnson, which I still believe was the right thing to do, but as soon as we sold Johnson, Kudus has been probably one of the players that's been overplayed or played a lot. Run into the ground a little bit. It felt a little bit sort of Kulusevski-esque from last year. It was inevitably happen at some point. And as you say, the timing is just horrific given now Johnson has left. We haven't signed a replacement for Johnson. And now we're in the same old position with Tottenham where we're trying to put square pegs in round holes to try and make the squad balanced. I mean, we have no balance on the left, particularly because we know we've needed a left winger and we all wanted to sign a left winger in the summer. We did sign a right winger. He then gets injured and we sell the sub. So now we don't have a right winger who's fit. So again, it's just us trying to meddle through. We're now already on the 6th of January. Other clubs have done business already, whether you rate the business they've done, Johnson being an example to Palace, that was obviously a squad gap they felt they needed to fill. West Ham have signed a striker. We all know West Ham are in deep trouble, but nevertheless, they've gone out and signed a striker. We need to get moving really, really quickly. And as it stands, I mean, you spoke through a couple of links there. I think some are stronger than others, perhaps. We'll come on to them,
That's fair to say.
but I think as it stands right now, it doesn't look like this reinvention of ENIC in the Lewis family, ENIC 2.0, the Lewis kids, whatever you want to call them, is any different to what we've seen in the past and the sort of complete lack of plan whenever we go into a window. But That being said, it is only the 6th, and we do know January is more difficult. But right now, it's not looking good.
Yeah, just on that point you mentioned there, Connor, around the board or the new look board, of course, minus Daniel Levy. It's worth pointing out there that, of course, Change for Spurs, who were, a very much firm organisation behind change. Just make that very, very clear. They've already released a statement during this January transfer window, which I will just read out for listeners on audio. This has been prepared by CFT. This says, this is a defining window for the football club. After finishing just above the bottom three in the league last year, it was clear that the squad needed serious investment. The Lewis Family Trust, Vinay Venkatesham, Johan Langer, and Fabio Paratici have told supporters that they were ready to be ambitious and prioritise trophies after Daniel Levy had stood down. During the past, we have too often failed to capitalise on the summer or January transfer window, and a change in strategy was welcomed by the fan base. It goes on to say, we desperately need new additions for the first team and further squad depth, which is more than possible if the club are serious about looking and backing this team with proper investment in this month. With Kudus possibly out for a long period, we're now incredibly short across our attack after selling Brennan Johnson. This club has to be bold this window, and we are yet to see that. Fans are also desperately needing to hear more about the long-term footballing strategy and some clarity on the director of football role, with Fabio Paratici widely reported to be leaving the football club. We will be planning action if the club fails to deliver again. This can't be another failed transfer window. To dare is to do our club, our voice. Now, look, whether you believe it's the right time in terms of CFT to be releasing a statement like that, change for Spurs, what I would say is, well, what worth would he be doing putting that statement out after the window was closed? So if this is going to help in any way try and accelerate and put some pressure on the board, if they didn't know anywhere near before, they need to act. Because I will remind many people out there, I was here 12 months ago when I think at the time Spurs accelerated quickly to sign a backup goalkeeper, if we remember, with all due respect, after Fraser Forster was between the sticks. And it took pretty much until the last 4 days of the window for Tottenham to really act, to give any sense of help, of course, to Ange Postecoglou at the time. So I think right now we want to see this manager, whether you like Thomas Frank, whether you dislike Thomas Frank, Spurs are going to back him and give him the best possible chance of trying to give us some hope going into this second stage of the season. But Ash, I'll come to you. Is it sod's law? We mentioned about Kudus there. He's only missed one Premier League game all season. That was against Man United in November. And here it looks like we're losing him for quite a considerable period.
Yeah, first of all, thanks again for having me on, Ricky. I'm loving the panel at the moment, man. Always learning from these boys. Big up to the chat as always. Yeah, I think with Kudus, I think the idea was before the injury, we were going to have him, and then hopefully Kulusevski was going to come back. So that right-sided area was going to be sorted out. And that's the reason why they probably let Johnson go. And now things have materialized the way they have. And obviously, you've just read out the change for Spurs' statement. The point is, we want to put pressure because we don't want to see things that has happened in the past repeat itself. And so when we look at the board in previous years, they are a lot more reactive. And we were hoping from the sale of Johnson, there'll be a lot more proactive. And so they can have change still because they can really get a hold of the narrative if they were to get a signing done between now and, let's say, the Aston Villa game, because we've got a massive FA Cup game.
Spot on.
Could they announce a player within that time frame? I'm not sure if it's too soon, but a lot of fans want to know what's going on. What is the strategy? What is the long-term planning, the thinking? Now, in the past, we would have looked for a winger that could complement maybe a left side and a right side, or could play across the whole front three. But we desperately need a player that can lift us up, because our attacking has been void of creativity and of goals. So I've heard people have two different arguments saying that we need more of a touchline winger, someone that's similar to Kudus, but on the left-hand side. And that's why players like Savinho was mentioned. However, you're looking at Savinho, he's injured. So you're like, wait, hold on a second. We can't be signing a player that's injured whilst Kudus is injured as well. So we need another player that we can kind of put our hats on and have some type of optimism, because right now, this is before Bournemouth game, we're having emergency meetings already over Kudus, 10:30 at night. This is crazy. So we really need a player to come in, lift the spirits of Spurs fans. We've not seen that many wins. In fact, it's 2 wins in the last 11. And the team we're about to play in, and I will talk about it later, Bournemouth, they've outscored us, you know. And we thought, and I didn't want to get into Frank, but we thought, at least for Frank, defensively, we would be improving. And now we've got a worry that we're not going to be defensively sound, but also attacking wise, that's where the real worry is now, because Kudus was our main attacker. He was our main source of goals, our main source of our main source of creativity. And when you've cut that off, it's like, who do we look to? Aloni Moani, he hasn't hit the ground running. He's been deployed on the right-hand side. In the past, we've tried Odobert there, but Odobert has shown glimpses and flashes. We haven't had consistency on that right-hand side. So now it's a bit of a gamble. Who do we play there coming in tomorrow, into Wednesday's game? Sorry. So it's really a head scratcher, and that's why there's a lot of concern. And Frank's got a lot of pressure on him, and rightly so, like from the fans and from himself. He's got to somehow work with what he's got. And he himself said there's no reassurances that we bring someone in if they're not the right quality. I'm in a different understanding. I'm in a different thinking. I think now that remit needs to change. He needs to come out and say, listen, I need players. Like, this is a different circumstance. Kudus, one of our top signings, has gone down, and we need to rectify that. We need to bring in quality ASAP.
Actually, I hear what you're saying, and to bring Luke into this obviously conversation as well, the difficulty he's got, Ash, is he's aware, and you've said it there, you know, this is a guy that's won 2 of his last 11 games, 7 wins from 20. And the reality is that you would imagine he's losing more and more influence over what he might like during this window, because of the nature of not only results and performances, but of course, fan reaction with regards to how the feeling is around the fan base at the moment. And I think, Luke, just to bring you in on that point, one thing Frank did say is that one thing is our name and our fantastic history. Another reality is where we are right now. I mean, if Mourinho or Conte would set a line like that, we'd be going absolutely berserk. But does he have a point that where Tottenham are in general right now, when you look at the squad that we've got at the moment, the injuries that we've got, are we just in a really, really bad position right now? And to add to that, to lose, like I said, one of the sources of creativity in Kudus, and not have a like-for-like replacement, or alongside that, of course, sell a player that maybe arguably in Brennan Johnson could have played in that role, we're leaving us shorter to begin the window, rather than even strengthening at the start, where arguably we all knew we needed to go into the window already having an idea of what we're trying to do. And this, of course, is on top of that with links around Fabio Paratigi's future being up in the air as to whether he's even going to be here to oversee this transfer window in full. Luke, what do you make of it?
Yeah, I mean, he keeps telling us Spurs fans how bad we are. We watch us every week. We know. You don't need to keep telling us. You don't need to keep saying to us, we finished 17th last year and we're bad. Yeah, we know. Don't you worry about that. But yeah, no, it is really, really strange and quite ironic, really, that it's Bournemouth up next, who have a player who has a release clause, and yet they've still managed to wangle keeping him for 2 more games, because you would expect he's going to deliver something, but also it gives them more time to get a replacement in. And it just shows that no matter what decision we seem to make, it seems to be the incorrect one. So fans were saying, yes, just go and get the money, and I'm sitting there going, but we're already short. And we wanted a left winger in the summer, so everybody knew we were short, and now we're even more short. And then, as you said, Spurs, it's the typical, he's got a little knock. Let's see if we see him again this season. So, yeah, it heightens the need to do something in January. Whether they will or not is obviously over to them now. They we have seen, you go off of what we've seen in the history books, right? And under Ange, we see a very successful first window in terms of bringing in a lot of first team players. The next 3 after that, we see one player that came into the 11. All of the rest of them were, in my eyes, they were club signings. They were players that were going to reach their potential in a couple of years, not players to come in and improve them. And your point on on a year ago, on last January, we signed the goalkeeper on one of the first days, I think it was, and then we didn't sign an outfield player until the 2nd of February in January window, which is exactly the problems that we've been seeing too often. So you would have liked to think that when Johnson going out the door, that there is a player lined up to come in fairly quickly. The problem that we've got is that not many, I don't think, are backing that's going to be the case. But to get that, as I said, in the summer, they wanted the left-sided player. They then got rid of Johnson, so that money that was still there, because we kept offering for players, Savinho being the main one, you would expect that there is a bit of money there. But the problem that I think that we potentially got is that what we really need right now is goals, and we need goals and assists. And a lot of the wingers that we're actually linked to don't, their records at this moment don't suggest they guarantee that. A little bit like Kudus, really, to be honest with you. You replace Kudus with Johnson, and it was very unlikely that Kudus was going to match Johnson goals and assist output last year. Input, like 100% in terms of games and being involved and everything else, definitely. But it's very unlikely that he was going to score them amount of goals, because he's never done that. So we need to get someone that's ironically a bit of a Johnson, who is just goals and assists. That's what they bring to the team. But yeah, I'm sure we'll get into it about individual targets, but this club needs a lift.
Not only that, Luke, as well, you have to remember we lost Son, who was our talisman. He was our figurehead, and he was a rich source of goals from that left side. And it's not been replaced. Exactly, Ricky. So you add that on top, you can see why we're in such a mess at the moment. But I honestly thought this, I don't know, maybe I'm being optimistic, and I thought maybe Kudus' injury would force the board into moving a bit more vigorously, a bit more violently, and if not, that would force us as a club, as fans, to kind of voice our opinions. Do you know what I mean? Or voice us to start talking to change the Spurs, to say, guys, you know what? We might need to hit the roads again. We might have to try and get hold of our club again. Do you know what I mean? That's the reason why they were put up in the first place, because of things that happened in the past. Like you said, we bought a goalkeeper and then nothing until the end of February. Like this, that can't be acceptable, because the whole point is, what club do we want to be? I'm hearing a lot of fans now saying, you know what, this is a mediocre squad. Maybe we should just accept to who we are. We're a mid-table team. Is that the type of fan base that we want to be? We just want to be accepting mediocrity. We're just accepting, oh, right, you know, this is it, because our manager said that we're 17th. And if you look at the players from last season, they're no good. So, you know, we should be happy at mid-table. I mean, I'm a fan and I want to see my team get to the highest part of the table as possible. And if I don't see that, I at least want to see some attractive football, because that's what being a fan's about. It's about being passionate and being proud of your team, wearing your shirt down the high road. Do you know what I'm saying? I don't want to be watching my games and thinking, oh, it's Tottenham again. Do you know what I'm saying? And I'm upset and I'm worried and I'm anxious about. I'm trying to get away from depression, or I'm trying to escape from.
And I keep bringing you back.
Do you know what I'm trying to say? But yeah, I mean,
what's your gauge on it? I mean, Ash, very quickly for you, do you feel that we are 7th of January for our listeners on audio? We are recording here on the eve, of course, of the Bournemouth game. Gut feeling, Ash, do you feel we're going to end the window stronger than what we've got into it? Because right now, as things stands, we're weaker. We've sold Brennan Johnson and Kudus a significant injury. Gut feeling, Ash, for you, will we end this window stronger than what we've got into it?
History would tell me no, but as I said, I'm a fan, so the optimism in me, there's a little bit of optimism in me saying that they've got to get it right. You know, they've said a lot. They haven't delivered so far, but I was waiting to the summer, but it feels like, no, this is the window they need to prove us, because if we don't see any green shoots and they're doing their part of the bargain, then in my eyes, it's all a lie. Do you understand? And nothing has literally changed.
Yeah.
So that's my small hope, thinking that, something is going to happen. How many signings? I don't know. Realistically, people will say 2. I'm going to be a bit more deluded and say 3, because I think that left back that you spoke about earlier, he's quite young. So
Souza.
for me, it really does feel like a club, a project kind of signing again. And we can't be sending out the message where Tottenham Hotspur is the creche. Do you know what I'm saying? We're just getting all these youngsters and we're looking after them. We need players that are ready now to step into that 11 to challenge, not as backups, if that makes sense. So that's what it is for me, really. That's the reason why I'm like, all right, if we get this guy, it's him, and it's got to be a marquee signing, either wing now, and a midfielder, in my opinion. And I'm happy to be wrong, but I'm here. This is just my opinion.
That's absolutely fine. I mean, kind of gut feeling for you. We're here, like I say, 7th of January for listeners on audio. How do you feel at the moment in terms of the way this window is going to go? Like I say, we're weaker as things stands before we've got into it by losing Brennan Johnson, and obviously now Kudus has gone down injured. What does your gut tell you in terms of what we're going to end up with?
Well, I know what we need to do, but 25 years of data tells me that we won't do that. I don't think there's ever been a single window in this club's history where the club has done more than what was expected, or at least even what was expected. Every single window we've ever come out of, we have all gone, oh, it was just a shame we didn't quite get this player, or we really needed a centre midfielder, didn't quite get that over the line. And it happens window after window after window. The summer window that we had, some credit was given in terms of the type of profile of player and wages that type of player attracted. But we all came out of that window again going, oh, we really needed a left winger. Would have been good to get a ball player midfielder. I mean, of the 4 first team signings, in inverted commas, 2 of them were loans as well. Don't forget, one of which was done on the last day of the window as an emergency signing, because obviously they knew about Solanke's injury. And we didn't even take advantage of the fact that we managed to get 2 players in on loan to then spend elsewhere, right? So there's always this underwhelming feature of every transfer window that we ever go into. It's completely reactive, not proactive, as Ash said earlier. And look, I think, people say, I've seen people say it, on shows or on Twitter or whatever else, that Spurs fans aren't patient enough. I think Spurs fans are the most patient fans going. They've had to put up with 25 years of this shit. And the other thing is as well, the other narrative that sometimes gets peddled is, oh, do you know what, that period under Pochettino meant that our expectations are unreasonable now. We're not the ones that put Tottenham in the Big Six, right? We're not the ones that tried to take Tottenham into the European Super League like Daniel Levy did. We're not the ones that built a new stadium and promised fans that we were going to dine at the top table for signings. We're not the ones that set the prices as the highest ticket prices in Europe. That was done by the club, and they now need to match that. Us as fans have watched, a structural decline over 6 years since Poch went, and it's getting worse and worse and worse. And I said it, I think last time I was on this show, that we have basically become, Everton of a few years ago, whereby, money is thrown at transfers, but they don't pay the wages. So you're always just going to get recruitment misses, and it just gets worse and worse and worse. And until we have a change of owners, I really can't see anything changing, because I think the whole club needs a complete cultural reset. So unfortunately, Rick, that's a really negative rant, sort of 10 to 11 at night, but it is generally, I think, the way that a lot of Tottenham fans feel.
But like you said there, Con, you're going off the basis of evidence and data to suggest why you've come to that conclusion. Luke, where are you on this? Because again, I'll make that point. We're only 7 days into the transfer window. Yes, we can already see there's a degree of, work that needs to be done here, but it feels like already now, by the injury to Mohamed Kudus, if we've got any ambition this season, despite maybe what Thomas Frank is telling us about the reality and where we are, we're going to have to do more than maybe we even thought we were going to need to do this window, just to try and at least have a fairly decent season. I mean, decent season is by what standards? I don't really know anymore, because I think, like Ashton kind of alluded to there, the standards seem to keep being dropped, with all due respect, in terms of what is acceptable. And I just look at our squad and look, it's nowhere near where it needs to be or it should be. But we shouldn't be, in my opinion, below Brentford. We shouldn't be below Everton. I don't think Tottenham should be 13th in the Premier League, 12th, 11th. They should be at least in the top 10. Where are you, Luke, in terms of the degree of backing and if they will get backed this window?
Yeah, 100%. Listen, everybody knows January is very, very difficult. There's no doubt about it. Every club says it. So if every club's saying the same thing, then it is difficult. However, Connor's right. At the end of the summer, you went round and spoke to any fans on any show. They all said the same thing. Defensively, on the left-hand side, particularly left centre-back, left-back, we're struggling. We needed one more. We needed a midfielder that was going to go and dominate and have the ball and be able to get us up the pitch. And Morgan Gibbs-White was the man that we went for. Left wing, we all knew we needed. And then obviously Moani came in as a last minute, and people thought maybe he's the striker that can be in the short term at the very least. But we all knew where we was lacking. So, but January is all about sorting out emergencies, or if you're in a position of power where, say, you're a Villa and you think, well, we've got a little bit more here, and if we just went a bit hard, maybe we could go and become a bit better than what our season expectations were. But for me, okay, we're not in a relegation battle, but this is an emergency for me. I'm not the whole point of getting rid of Ange and targeting this level of players and getting Champions League football and getting rid of Levy is because we wanted to go to a new level. So a new level is not 13th. So I think it is. I think it is an emergency. I think we're in a corner where, unfortunately, we need to plug gaps, and we need to do it now. Now, I understand that we have a different ethos in the way we're going about signing players, and I think that's the right thing to do. I keep saying it. If we keep missing out on top players and they're going to top clubs, then at least we're targeting that level of player. I'm sick and tired of nicking players off of Wolves and Brentford and teams like that, and then we 2 years down the line go, these players aren't good enough. Well, no, that's not. Man City are not celebrating nicking a player off of a Brentford or anything like that. And if that's where you want to target, you have to start learning from what they're doing. So I'm happy targeting better level of player. But at the moment, we need, even if it's short-term fixes, we need that right now. That is the fact of the matter. We need to improve the 11 that we currently have. There's obviously conversations about Frank and about backing him and everything else, but it doesn't make a difference. We need better players, regardless of who your manager is. We need better players than what we've got, and there's clear holes in this squad. And we laugh at other clubs, right? We've done it for years for Arsenal, going, all you needed was a defensive midfielder. That's what you needed for years and years, and they never went and got one. And you're sitting there laughing at it again. If you just got one, and that's what teams will be doing to us. They'll be looking at it again. Everyone knows where you're weak. Everyone can see it, because it's happening week in, week out. And they'll be laughing at us. So I don't think they've got any excuses. And I think what might be different this time round is that with Savinho, they went very hard towards the end of the window. So we all know that money is there. And then they sold Brennan Johnson, which A, we don't sell players, but B, we don't do it early, right? It's always dragged out, and it's always like a last minute thing. And then by the time you sell someone for 35 at the end of a window, you forget by the time the next window comes round. We know that money's there now. We know that in theory there is £100 million, and that's before you add on just what their budget would have been anyway. So for me, I don't think there is any excuses. I think if they don't deliver a player that improves the 11 right away in this window, then I think the protests will really, really ramp up, especially if we're sitting where we are.
Luke, Rick, can I just come in on one point that Luke raised, which is really important in terms of the type of player that we target versus the other top clubs. I mean, I've just seen the news that Semenyo's finally got the here we go, right? Can you imagine Tottenham being second, and then within 6 days of a January transfer window, when they've already got Savinho, who we're linked with, ironically, Bob, Shirky, Foden,
Marmoush,
Ireland, Mamouche, going out and spending 65 million on Semenyo to try and push you onto the title, and also being linked with Guy at the back, because they've obviously had an injury at the back, right? It just would never happen. And it's the exact same with Arsenal, right? You look at what Arsenal have done window after window because they're trying to build on what they've done. When we were finishing second and third, we went 3 transfer windows without signing a single player under Poch. And we had £13 million net spend for 5 years under Poch. It is farcical. The relative ambition of Tottenham versus other clubs is just completely off. In my view, I think our owners have one of the lowest, other than West Ham probably, the lowest relative ambition to their size of any football club in the Premier League. You look at what a financial behemoth we are as a football club, and then you look at the way we act, it's completely night and day.
I think, like we said, I can't speak for all fans because I wouldn't ever want to do that. But I think we are going to know very, very quickly in this window and the summer window where we stand. And I think a lot of fans, again, I won't speak for anybody or everybody, they'll make their judgment. I really do think this window and the summer window is absolutely key to really finding out just how much do the Lewis family want to be at Tottenham. And it's not just about being at Tottenham. It's about taking us at least back to where we want to be, just being competitive in the Premier League. And like they said, they were the ones, and it wasn't us, wasn't the fans. They were the ones that said, on the back of winning in Bilbao, we want more nights like that. We want more wins. Well, like I said, we're already here. And yes, the transfer window isn't over. Many would say, look, it's barely started, 7 days in. But at the same time, already the feeling is that we've weakened the squad without even looking at this point in time to try and go and strengthen it. And yes, it is early days, but at the same time, we've already played 2 Premier League games in between that time. We've got a massive FA Cup game to come against Aston Villa. We're building up to Bournemouth in the Premier League again. Every Premier League game is massively important. So I do think, guys, time will absolutely tell. We are going to squeeze in our first break of the show for our listeners that are on audio. Thanks as always to the 5,500 that are watching us live across all of our platforms. As always, we appreciate your support for the show and what's already been a really powerful episode of Last Word on Spurs. And we'll ask you out there and encourage you, if you can, like, hype, subscribe, and share this out to a wide range Tottenham audience. That would be greatly appreciated. We're going to bring you up to date right now on where we are with Tottenham's attempted moves in the window. And one of those attempted moves at the moment is that Tottenham are set to reignite their interest in the 19-year-old left-back from Santos in Souza. Now, Tottenham had their first offer of 10 million, which was rejected, and talks are understood to be continuing this week with other clubs also in the race. Now, crucially, Souza is understood to be keen on a move to Tottenham during this window and likes the option of playing in the Premier League, living in London, in addition to the sports project they presented to him. Santos await the new offer, and it will be almost double the first one. He's a Brazilian youth international. He's regarded as one of the brightest talents to come out of Santos' famed academy in recent years. He made 24 appearances last season as the Brazilian side staved off relegation. That's not a worry at all, is it, when you hear that? Let's start with Luke. Luke, Ash touched upon it there in his initial part of this show. 19-year-old. Again, is this a player for the future rather than the now? Is it already concerning that we're going in low-balling with bids? Where are you, Luke, in terms of this being, it feels, one of Tottenham's primary targets at the moment they want to get done in Souza?
Again, it's what the fans believe and whether they have confidence in the plan or the plan that we don't have. Because any other club, if this was a Bournemouth being linked with this player and they signed them, or a Brentford or a Brighton, when they signed them, us fans will be going, why didn't we go in for him? Only £10 million Brazilian, like, he's played a few games. I bet he's going to end up being a star. But because we're signing him, we're thinking, A, it's not going to work. B, he's probably not ready. And I think it's all just confidence in what we've seen previously, going to what Connor mentioned earlier. I think that one thing is for sure is that we need some sort of cover in that position. I've said it time and time again. I love Spence. I think Spence on that side offers so much in some games, but in other games, just not having that left-footed player. And I think we see that with Ben Davies starting the other day. We just need to make sure that we've got that. And obviously, the fact we only have 3 fullbacks, one of which is incredibly injury prone, it makes life very, very difficult. And I think it's one of the reasons why Porro's form has decreased, because I think he's being played so much, because it's basically Spence and Udogie, and then Udogie's out, so Spence is playing the majority of the games. So I think we definitely need some coverage on there. I think that it depends on the Udogie situation. It looks like he's in training possibly now, so if it's not a long-term issue, then hopefully you've got 2 players at fullback that are competing for either side. But again, it's about priorities. And we need a left back, yes. But if someone said we're going to go and spend 30, 40, 50 million on a left back, then I think we'd all be sitting there going, no, that's not something we need right now. We need it. We need that money to be spent in other positions. So £10 million, with all due respect, and Connor's the money man, but a lot of people say that's more of a dot being placed in the wrong place. It's not a massive it's not a massive issue for a Tottenham Hotspur to go and spend 10, even if it's 12, 15 million on a left back. It's not the end of the world. So as long as we go and get other things done, then I'm okay with it. I can't confess that I've watched hours and hours of clips of him, but I think it's just that we don't have any confidence in this recruitment plan. And again, if we'd have got all this sorted and then we're signing these odd players, then everyone kind of doesn't mind. But right now we're just thinking, is it a cheap option? Is he going to be nowhere near good enough? Similar to players who, like Takai, we was told would be coming in and be part of the first team. He's come in, he's injured. The second he's fit, right, you're out on loan. So yeah, I'm not against it, but as long as we're not focusing all our energy, we seem to be the only club in the world that can only buy 1 player at a time. Like other clubs will have like 3 all ready to go, and then like, yeah, here we go. Whereas with us,
tried to buy 2. Obviously, we had the release clause coming with Gibbs White. So that's a fair point. Yeah. So as long as everything's not fully focused on the left back, and that's what Paratici's staying for, and then we're being left with someone else to run for all the other positions, I'm not against it. But as I say, if there was some talk about the Brazilian team wanting like 50% of the next sell-on clause, like 20 million and all of that. If it starts getting silly, then look, move on, go somewhere else, get something in, even if it's a short-term measure, because we need to get priority positions. And I think that's the problem. There's so many holes in this squad. We need to worry about what is the priority. Like, we need to go and get them players over, because it's not going to be acceptable to get to February and we go, yeah, do you know what? We got that left back over the line. That was a long thought out process. We managed to get him, but actually we still don't have a left winger. So I think that we need to make sure that we get them over the line. Yeah, I just wonder whether priorities, like you said there, Luke, would they maybe shape or change now, given what we hope they are, because the injury to Kudus and the severity and the decisions about how much that's going to affect Tottenham. Ash, to bring you in, I feel like you are a guy that we go to in terms of profile of player. He's known to have quick feet. He's got a burst of pace. He likes to drive century with the ball to open up the spaces for his teammates. He does draw similarities to Spence in the way he plays in possession, while his ability to cross early and decisively makes him an unpredictable presence in the final third. But the reality is, Souza, Santos are adamant they would like to keep him this window. And they undoubtedly, if Tottenham do sign him, are going to then need to give the guy time to adapt to the physicality of the Premier League. Where are you, Ash, on this player? Is this something that we should be spending a lot of time on this window, given, like the guys have touched upon already, the concerns in the other areas where it feels they also need major strengthening? And I know we're only the 7th of January at this point in the window, but it already feels like we need to kind of get a move on.
Spurs aren't broke. Like, I don't understand what's going on. We said that we're going to have 150 million. So this whole...
We'll just say allegedly, but I mean...
Allegedly, but either way...
Add on that point as well, I think like Luke said, the Savinho money wasn't spent in the summer.
Right then. So, like...
We've had the Brennan Johnson money come through as well.
What I'm talking about, Ricky, is the speed. That's what I'm talking about. Because when Aston Villa were linked to their Brazilian kid and they got their one over the line, that didn't take half the amount of time. It was just like, right, we didn't even see this one coming, didn't know where it come from. That's the speed that we need to be getting signings in. None of this davering, 10 million. Oh, okay, they want 20 million. All right, cool. We're going to push it to maybe 12. I feel like we're negotiating when really, like you said, there's more priorities that we need to kind of focus on. if it's the kid that we really want and we see the potential and we like the profile of the player, and as you guys were saying, we needed a left footer on the left hand side to give competition to a doggy because the doggy's injury prone, then get him in. Simple as that. There's no two ways about it. I understand about Wonder Kids FC. I mentioned that already. Do you understand? I have looked at him. I've looked at a few tapes. He does look promising. He's a player that can go on the outside, the inside. You've already mentioned a lot of his abilities. In terms of crossing, he's a lot better on crossing that ball into the box. He can do lofted balls. He can hang it into the box. He could do fizzed crosses across the 6-yard box. So he's got different abilities and different techniques in terms of trying to get that ball over into the boxes for attacking players. So that's a bonus. And the fact that he can take his man 1v1, he's not bad, he's not shabby, and he can combine as well. On the face of it, it looks good. But as you said, Ricky, we don't know if he can handle the physicality of the league. Will he be another Brazilian Reguilon, for example? Will he be missing when it comes to defensive responsibility? He does look tenacious. He doesn't mind a tackle. I have seen that in some of the bits I've seen. But again, it just comes down to if we were serious, we could have gone for Nathaniel Brown from Frankfurt. And that was a player that lots of people were looking at. We're looking at the whole, the English quota, because we did lose Brennan Johnson. So we do need to kind of manage that somewhat. But at the same time, it was like, where is the ambition? Do you know what I mean? If we're going to improve a squad, like, we don't want backups. We don't want projects. We want someone to push a doggy. Do you know what I mean? So a doggy doesn't know if he's starting or not. So that takes him up to another level. Then, all right, cool. That's 30 or 40 million. As you said, allegedly 150. But either way, we sold money, as you just said before, from Brennan Johnson. So surely there must be some money, surely. You know what I'm saying? So that's where I sit with it. I'm thinking, let's go out, let's be serious, let's show the fans we're ambitious. I've got no problem in signing a Brazilian kid. I don't mind profiles if that's what we need in that particular position. But we just need something to hold or hang our hats on. We need some type of hope, bro. You know what I mean? There's no hope right now. We've come off the back of a draw. We've just lost one of our top players. Like, what are we doing it? Like, Ricky, tell me. So
I ask myself that question every day. What are we doing here?
Like, yeah. So that's all it is. And I don't want to sound like I am moaning, but it's just a frustration.
Yep.
Because we know what the potential is of the club.
Of course.
And I think that's the issue of it. Do you know what I mean?
We've seen the potential. We've seen the potential. We've seen Bilbao. We've seen the parade. We saw before that under Pochettino what it can be like when everybody is together and happy. And I think people forget this. You know, I see this a lot under our comment section and then feedback on the shows about when other fans listen and watch and hear about how other Tottenham fans sound, whether they feel we're self-entitled. Connor mentioned a great point, Con. You said that, you know, we've been a very patient fan base in the last 24, 25 years. You know, don't tell me there was not fans that were grateful under that Pochettino period, because they were. That stadium was full every single week, home and away, home and away. The atmosphere was absolutely sensational. Again, for those that were growing up, maybe for the younger generation, they maybe don't have too many memories of that Poch team growing up, but there was a great feel-good factor going to Spurs. You went to Spurs believing you could win every week. You may not win every week, but you believed you could. And I think we just want to get back to a place where we feel we're at least competitive again. That's all we want to feel. And I just ask you, Con, we're 7 days into the window, and here we are trying to chase down a Brazilian fullback. I mean, it feels like now, obviously, because of the Kudus injury, there's other areas now that probably need a lot more care to them than this one now. Do you agree?
Yeah, I mean, I think the guys, both Luke and Ash, are spot on with everything they said. I think I agree. I don't mind. I don't think any of us had heard of him until we were linked with him a week ago, to be honest. And perhaps you did, but I certainly hadn't. But that being said, I don't mind making these types of signings if we are also making, you know, the type of established pro signings that we need to make in the positions that we need to make them as well. So if we were linked with Souza at the same time as we were linked with a centre midfielder that we were going to spend 60 million on and a left winger that we were going to spend 60 million on, a really established pro, I don't think anyone would really be taking much notice of this as a sort of sub left back. But obviously, this is at the moment the only concrete link. And as Ash says, I think, just get it done. If this is the man you want, like, why are we fucking around again over what is, to Luke's point, a rounding error or a full stop in the wrong place? I think the problem is look, if you believe what has been reported, we did go in for Semenyo. I think the problem, because of the decline that we've had, obviously, when we go in for players at the same time as a Man City, we're going to lose now because of the decline that we've had, and clearly Tottenham is not a great proposition. But that being said, there are players all across Europe that we could still attract if we pay the right wages, because of the fact that we are a completely different financial proposition compared to European clubs. Just to give the viewers a bit of context on that, you take a Marseille or a Lyon, we're almost 3 times their revenue. AC Milan and Inter Milan, who are 2 behemoths, and Juventus, behemoths in Italian football, we're basically double the size of them when it comes to revenue, right? So we can go to clubs like Atalanta and go, do you know what? We're going to take Ederson off of you in centre midfield because we can. Here's 60 million and we're going to double his wages. And it's very, very easy for us to do that without having any significant impact in terms of our finances. Unfortunately, the club doesn't act that way, and we are where we are. But there's plenty of players across Europe, and I know people want us to sign proven players that are going to make an impact straight away. But I think that's going to be more difficult for us right now, given where we are with the likes of Anderson and Walton. So if you're looking at a centre midfielder, because both of them players are going to go, do I really want to go to Tottenham at the moment, or am I going to hold out? But there's loads of players. I mean, we're crap, right? So there's loads of players that can improve us all over Europe at the moment. But again, we just all want to see that proactivity rather than reactivity. But I think you said it, Rick, earlier. Before this window, we're not getting transfer links. We're getting links for our director of football to move away from the football club to go to the club that is 18th in Serie A. So what do you expect then going into the first week of this window? It's just an absolute car crash as usual.
Yeah. Look, we'll come on to the point around the striker hunt. I mean, there have been some real tentative links out there. I think it's not to get everyone too excited, but there's been tentative links to Baleba, who I just can't see Spurs looking at this window. And again, Nico Williams, these feel derisory targets, if I'm being honest with you. Where we are right now, I'll say to you guys, minimum players that come in that give Thomas Frank the best possible chance of still having a decent season. And the problem is when people say, well, what is a decent season? I'd probably now say, by the standards that we're in, you want to be competitive in the Champions League for as long as you can be. You want to hopefully finish in the top half and have a decent run in the FA Cup, which again, it'd be very hard to do so, given the fact we've got Aston Villa to come, of course, at the weekend. I think they've had 1 defeat in their last 13. We know how bad our home form is. Is there already a concern on that point, Con, to stick with you, that we may bring these players in and that we could already be in a situation where we're playing in just 2 competitions come mid-January?
Yeah, I think for sure. And I mean, look, the Nico Williams one, we all laugh, don't we? Because our instant reaction to that is, oh, he's on 350 grand a week. We're never going to attract him. Why can Athletic Bilbao afford to pay a player 350 grand a week, and we as Tottenham fans sort of roll our eyes and laugh at that? Again, we're much, much bigger than Athletic Bilbao as a football club, with much, much bigger finances, and we all laugh at that link, right? And I think that sort of sums it up. He obviously is not going to come to Tottenham. But yeah, you're right. I mean, on your specific question, I think right now, I think Frank's point, and Ash raised it earlier around, you don't want to sign players for the purpose of just because you need to sign players. You want them to be the right ones, and that has led to some of the issues that we've had. But I do agree with what the guys are saying. Actually, it is a bit of an emergency right now. We're not at risk of relegation, but the league is pretty rubbish, right? We know Tottenham are poor, and we're only 5 points off 5th or whatever it is now. You make a couple of good signings in this window, you suddenly could be pushing for European places versus not finishing in those. And then again, you have all of the impacts of that happening or not happening. And so again, it just feels like they don't have this proactivity around this type of stuff, or the want to speculate to accumulate. But yeah, it's a massive risk. I think this season is drifting, and I think you were saying earlier, Rick, about under Poch, the fact that home and away, everyone was buzzing, and we felt like we were going into every game thinking we could win. I now go into every game thinking we can't win, which is a horrible place to be. And I think,
Of course.
people probably in the chat, and I'm sure Luke and Ash at times, I'm thinking, can I even be asked to watch the game?
I know.
And that is when you really know it's getting bad, because you're actually despondent, right?
Yeah. I think you've made that point, kind of, on several shows now, the fact that you look at Everton, for example, and, people might laugh at their league positions over the last 3, 4, 5 years and what they've been through as a football club. If we don't start turning this ship around, there's no reason why Tottenham wouldn't look like or feel like an Everton of recent years, because of the deterioration of the squad and the lack of a plan, the lack of a structure, the lack of any real recruitment plan. I mean, Luke, I'm going to ask you that point as well. We're on the eve of the Bournemouth game, to bring that into context. And we know for Thomas Frank that he'll hope for him, this game can go to some degree of trying to repair his relationship with the fans, which feels like at the moment an all-time low. And when you haven't got that connection between the fans and the manager, it already feels like it's on a losing battle at the moment. So I just wonder, even like I say, going into games now, Connor's made that point. I speak to so many Spurs fans that are so disconnected where the club is at, where they're at as a fan at the moment. Can we still turn around this season? Because the crazy thing is, given the basket case of what's been the Premier League this season, despite how bad we've been, 27 points from 20 games, we're only 4 or 5 points off the top 4, the top 5, which again is crazy me saying that, because there'll be people saying to me, Rick, you lost your marbles if you're looking higher up the table than behind you. But I know, again, we're only 7 or 8 points off the bottom 3, bottom 4, but it's been that kind of crazy league, Luke, where, barring the couple at the top, everyone's not looked that great. And you've got Man United and Chelsea that have sacked their respective manager in this last 48 hours.
Yeah, 100%. If you was to win 3 games on a trot, your position in the table completely changes, and your outlook on the season completely changes. But it also completely changes if you go and get 2 top players. Your whole then start looking at it going, hang on a minute. Do you know what I mean? And all of a sudden, soon as February sort of there, Kulusevski's probably coming back. You're thinking Solanke might be coming back as well. And I know that as fam, we might not be saying that these are going to change our lives sort of thing, but it will be like having a new player for Thomas Frank, particularly for the players that he's not had at all. Solanke, I think, played a couple of minutes for him, but I don't think Kudus played at all. So these will feel like new signings, and they just give the squads a boost. I can't praise James Maddison's YouTube channel enough. Like, every time I watch it, you can just see that kind of the behind the closed doors stuff that go on, and the kind of you can just see how together this sort of team were. Obviously, it's always months behind sort of thing, but I think that is a big factor in it. And if you start just getting a bit of feel good factor back, then you can just shoot straight up the table. It's the problem that we've got is that we're not playing well and losing. We're playing badly and we're losing, or we're playing badly and nicking draws,
or not putting together 2 halves. To be fair,
and the problem with playing Bournemouth is that, okay, Bournemouth are below us, but if they win, they kind of close that gap. We obviously get pulled into what's below. But the way what Bournemouth are going to bring, they're going to bring high intensity, they're going to bring pace, they're going to bring everything that Spurs fans want Spurs to be. And if we get beat by them doing what we want them to be doing, and we come out and have the second half of what we had recently, then it's going to be another thing where the fans are going, hang on a minute, this is exactly what we want, but it's for the other team. So this is the problem. I've always said it, and I said it way back. Mourinho, Conte, when you're playing decent, attractive, attacking football, if you lose games, not if you lose 22, but if you lose games, then the fans you've got a reason, you've got like a little bit of a buffer. If you play bad and lose, you've got no buffer. You've got nothing there. You've got nothing to build on. Like, you're literally saying this is results. All we care about is getting results. The second you don't get results, that's it. You're basically spat out. You're finished with. You're done with. So that's his problem. Is that's the way he's going. That's the way he's opted to do it. And soon as you stop, because I was still having, there's no difference in the way we're playing now to when I think we was 5th on 18 points after, and we're not playing any differently. There's not, all that's happened is we haven't been as clinical.
No.
And we've conceded a few more, because actually when you looked at the XG and everything, we should have conceded more and we shouldn't have scored as many. And it's just, nothing's really that changed. And as I say, but it doesn't make any difference. This it's not like this squad needs players in. And until they get players in, it's going to be difficult to be able to really challenge. But when, as I said, I'll keep going back to the football just has to improve. And if we get what we got in the first half recently, then that's a benchmark to set and say, this is how we're going to go about things. So the Bournemouth game is an incredibly big game, because, as I say, the other teams that we've been beaten by, they haven't played fantastic football. Even though they've beat us, they haven't played fantastic football. So the fans are not sitting there going, I'll tell you what, I'd love to have that manager, because that was just as boring, even though they won. Iriola's is a different beast. He's going to be attacking. He's going to be full throttle, and he's going to be a little bit Ange, if you like, a bit chaotic. And I think the fans are going to kind of enjoy to see that. So yeah, let's just big performances needed, which I've said every single game for the last 20 Premier League games. So we'll see how we get on.
Let's go, Ash, very quickly on Bournemouth if we can. Look, Spurs do have a knack, of gifting results to struggling sides, but Spurs are going to welcome back the likes of Xavi Simons. They're going to have Lucas Bergvall and possibly Destiny Udogie, which Luke touched upon earlier, potentially back in contention. And we have seen Dominic Solanke train ahead of the game. I won't need to remind everybody out there, I'm sure they know, Bournemouth are winless in 11 matches since October, losing 6 and drawing 5 in the interim. Now, the 11 without a win for Bournemouth is their longest ever in a single top flight season that they have gone without winning. Ash.
Thanks, Ricky.
Do not say Dr. Tottenham.
I didn't say it, man.
It is Semenyo's farewell game. We've now got that confirmed. He is going to be playing his final game against Tottenham before he signs off to go and join Man City as well. Yeah,
I mean, what you can say is, away from home, obviously we're not top of the table, but we're near the top. So if I want to be positive and look at the data and the facts, away from home, we are much better than we are from home. And we are away against Bournemouth on this occasion. And them coming onto us, meaning they're attacking us, means there's going to be space in behind for our players to exploit, which plays into the way Thomas Frank wants to play. We have seen in that first half against Sunderland, he was a bit more attacking in that first half. That's why a lot of people were not completely losing their heads against the 1-1 draw against Sunderland. So if he can adopt a multiple facet or adjust during game, where at times he does press and at times he sits off, and we manage to nick a win, I think fans will be happy with that, because we do need 3 points. The issue at the moment, I know Luke's talked about performances, but I think some fans are happy if we could string a pair of wins together. And so we know that, and I don't want to look too far forward, but we know that February is quite difficult. So we need to win games against your West Hams. We saw West Ham are absolutely terrible right now. They just lost a game against Nottingham Forest. So Villa obviously is a massive game in between that. So I'm saying in the Premier League, if we can beat Bournemouth, if we can win against West Ham, and then Burnley is another game, those for me are massive games for Frank. If he can't get the job done against Bournemouth, even because the analytics, let's face it, they're not looking good. Like you just said,
they're winless in 11 games.
Yeah, so for him not to be able to beat those teams, that's going to send a massive message, not just to the fans but to the board. Who's going to react first, us or them? We don't know. And like it's not in his favor. But like going into the game, there are a few, dangers. You could look at, there's a few players like outside of Semenyo, in my opinion, there's a few players that could cause us some problems. But I think if we focus on ourselves, which is not very usual, normally we try to negate what the other team do. I think we could do a lot of damage. Brooks for me is a player. He's very busy. Out of the three, I know Taverniers there, Semenyo's there, Evan Nelson, even he scored a goal against Arsenal. I watched them against Chelsea. They were causing Chelsea all sorts of problems. But as much as they attack, they give you that opportunity to get your chance. So if we can capitalize on that and get a healthy scoreline, then that could, as Connor was saying earlier, or Luke was saying earlier, that could help raise the potential and the morale around the fan base.
Yeah, I do agree. Con, I just want to share with you, I know we are very conscious of time, some of the quotes that we're getting from the embargo section of Thomas Prank. I wish this was a prank. It's not, unfortunately. It is Frank. Thomas, I can't believe I've not done that more this season. I can't believe I've not done that more from what we've been put through. I wish it was a prank. I wish it was. It's not. To be frank, it is Frank. Con, Thomas Frank believes that CEO Vinay Venkatesham's experiences with Mikel Arteta at Arsenal have benefited him in gaining patience from a club that has rarely shown much patience. He says, no doubt about that. He also knows what good looks like and how, unfortunately, it can take time to get up to where good should look like. That's definitely beneficial because he understands the journey that we are on. Connor, your thoughts on some of those words there from Thomas Frank on Vinay?
Yeah, I think you could have done a worse rhyme than the one you did there with Frank, Rick. So you got away with that, I think. But yeah, look, I think on those quotes, I mean, said without an element of self-interest, of course, by Frank.
Absolutely,
that Vinay has got
Yeah.
patience. I mean, I think this is the danger sometimes. I think because of look, I think we all know that managers need time, but equally it can be the wrong thing to back the wrong horse, and it can be a waste of everyone's time, right? And
That's key. Yeah.
And I think the problem is that Arteta is almost used as the example always as to why you should give a manager time, but then there's plenty of examples where managers have been given longer and then it's all just been a waste of everyone's time. But that being said, look, I mean, you know, I've made no odds to the fact that I did back Frank before when we appointed him. As it stands right now, I've been wrong, and I'm very happy to admit that based on what we've seen so far. I've been wrong. That being said, you know, that could still potentially change. I don't think any of us are seeing any signs because I think there's regression rather than an upward trajectory, and I think we're missing any sort of green shoots. But it doesn't seem like the club is gonna make a decision on that right now. So I think we're all going to stick that out. I do also think sometimes you can argue it both ways, right? Because if you replaced him and you did get a better manager in right now, you do have that chance of Europe, for example, that I was talking about earlier. But then I'm always a bit wary of doing something mid-season because I think, you know, you want to give someone a full pre-season and transfer window, and there's probably better candidates available in the summer, particularly with the World Cup. So, I think I think they are going to be patient. I think on the Bournemouth thing as well, because you know some of our fans use it as a bit of a stick to beat Iriola with. And I'm not necessarily advocating for Iriola being the right man, but what I would say is you do have to remember Bournemouth lost 4 of their back 5, and most people were saying that Bournemouth were going to be in a relegation battle given the players they lost in the summer. They then had an excellent start, and everyone sort of forgot about that. But you know, for a club like Bournemouth to lose 4 of their back 5 and then have to settle back in, I think is really, really challenging for a club of that size. So, and Luke is right. I mean, in terms of the style of play, I don't think anyone watches Bournemouth and is bored. That
but then people were saying the same thing about us last season as well, weren't they? As
true. We were entertaining for true. But Bournemouth is a minnow compared to a Tottenham, and should be viewed as such, right? You know, their whole stadium fits probably into the Park Lane, so you know I think we should remember that. But that being said, I think it's going to be a tough game. I think, you know, loads of comments, Dr. Tottenham, it feels that way, doesn't it? But let's see. As Ash says, our form away from home has been a little bit better. It wouldn't shock me to see us nick a draw, be dominated for most of the game, but then take advantage of those defensive deficiencies that they've got, and nick a draw. But yeah, I think those quotes, to be honest, are very sort of, that is the narrative he's going to naturally spin because he's in that protective mode now.
Yes.
Frank of
Yeah.
you see them all the time, and the interesting one for me is, I think there was another quote where he said, those that have been the most stable and have alignment between the director of football and the
Yes.
manager.
Yeah.
He uses City, Liverpool, and Arsenal as the examples.
Yeah.
But you can also spin that on the other way,
Of course
which
you
is
can.
the reason they are is because their managers have been good historically
Yes.
as well. So it can
Yeah,
work both ways,
Of course.
Correlation is not necessarily causation. So, it does work both ways. But
Yeah.
I think we all need to make that assessment in due course. I think whether
Yeah.
Frank is the right man going forward. I think right now, I think most fans probably agree he's been a disappointment, along with accepting that there's issues with the players and obviously Emic and everything else.
Yeah. Well, bear in mind he's been booed off the pitch after draws to Southern and Brentford in the past week. He needs to show it needs to be a convincing showing to try and get some fans back on side and try and repair the damage that's been done in terms of that relationship. I mean, he's been, Frank, full of praise for Vinay Venkatesham in the embargoed presser, which is now, of course, out to view on all respective platforms. He said about Vinay, besides being smart and taking sensible decisions, Vinay's also had that huge experience of having 10 years at Arsenal with how they've built. This guy just can't stop talking about Arsenal in every press conference. I don't know what to say. Listen, we are unbeaten in 3. Let's try and maybe think positively. Ash, feels like a big week, right? He said about the fact FA Cup coming is very important. He will get that rotation right. It'll be for freshness and for energy. But it does feel like a big week for Thomas Frank.
Yeah, he's going to need to, as I said before, that in between those league games, he has got the FA Cup, the Champions League. But I feel like FA Cup is the bigger of the two. I know Dortmund, we've got good history against them.
Yeah, agree.
Champions League, we get up for it, but FA Cup is like a competition we haven't won in a long while, and so a lot of fans hold that close to their heart. And getting that result right, even though we got knocked out last season in the FA Cup, ironically by Aston Villa, doesn't make this any easier. And seeing, what's so funny? Aston Villa, they're on a run like how we used to be with Poch. I know we spoke about that earlier.
They've had one defeat in 13. Unbelievable.
But they're in that, they're third, and the way they are playing, they just got that momentum where every game they just look up for it. Their fans are positive. They're, even though they haven't got as much financial clout as us.
No, they believe. They do believe. They believe.
They did what it took. Their board did what it took. They were going to push them right to the edge in terms of wages, the rest of it, and look where they are now. So you can see the parallels where I remember when they were in the Championship, under Dean Smith, they came up. Steven Gerrard took them over. Steven Gerrard didn't quite get it right, and then from there, Unai Emery took them. I think he took them from, they were bottom half. I think Gerrard was getting them into that kind of relegation type of talk, 13, 14, similar to what Spurs are at, basically.
Yeah.
And then Emery took them to 7th, I think, in his first season. And I think people were hoping, looking at Thomas Frank, maybe a small comparison with him and Emery. I don't think the comparison is right. I'd think maybe more to Eddie Howe. That would make more sense, because Eddie Howe in his first season, I remember he took over and I think he finished 11th in his first season, but it was halfway through when he took over. And then I think the following season, after getting 11th, then he got 4th. Then he picked up a load of injuries, went back again. And then, the season just passed. We know he went 4th. But looking at their midfield, funny enough, I'm looking at, and I don't want to bore you about Newcastle's midfield, but they've had players like Longstaff in their midfield. Do you know what I mean? They've had Willock in their midfield, So I'm not talking about super crazy midfielders. And I'm comparing it to my midfield, saying, people are saying we haven't got the squad together. But you're seeing managers with lesser midfields and take these teams up. And I brought back Unai Emery as well, because I felt like Newcastle and Villa, in terms of like their actual team, I wouldn't say they were miles ahead, but their managers were squeezing the juice out of them. Like if John McGinn came into our team right now, would we say that's a game changer? Do you know? I know Conte wanted him, but John McGinn, he could be that player that can give you 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10 on a regular basis. Equally, I could see him going into our team and just being abysmal. Do you know what I mean? So the point I'm trying to make at is that sometimes you need your coach to up level and upskill what's already there. And I think a lot of fans thought he was going to be the coach to improve a lot of the players. For example, like your Brennan Johnson, who's not like a sensational player, but he's a good player, just like Frank's a good manager. So the theory behind it is that he would improve.
Totally agree.
Remember, he wanted him at his club.
Yes.
Ironically, do you know what I'm saying? At Brentford.
Yeah.
But now he's not throwing him on the bus, but he's.
It's a damn admission, the fact they've sold him, because he feels he can't get anything more out of the player. Ash, I think you're right.
We signed Tell. We know people say it's a club signing, but again, under Frank, he said that, he's signing off on it. He said he can play across the front three. So he was happy with a player. So in our heads, some of these players that we weren't thinking might not be of the level, we're thinking, we're going to get a coach and they're going to improve the level of some of these players. And obviously, like I said, the injuries have happened. So we have to bake that into the conversations. I know some people said, no, that's unfair because we didn't do that with Ange and blah, blah, blah. Or we could do it with both managers. But at this present time, it's just not looking good. And we're not getting the best out of what we have. I just think if we get knocked out the FA Cup, just to round it up, because I've just gone around the house.
All right. No, you're fine.
If we get knocked out the FA Cup, I do expect to see Enoch out. I do expect to see Frank out. That's my personal opinion. That's how another home loss, I just think, especially in the FA Cup, I think that's going to be the camel that brought the Spurs back.
Especially when you think if we don't get a result at Bournemouth, a team that's
exactly
in 11.
Back, I said,
that's why
somewhere there's got to be something. And so like a draw with a mediocre performance, because the away fans, they're the heartbeat and the soul of the club. Singing boring Tottenham and singing like
they want their money back. They want their money back. Yeah,
exactly. It's not a good look. So
no, I think that's all fair. I mean, when you talk about Villa there, I just thought what Connor would probably want to come in and say about Villa and their ownership and what they've been doing there in terms of, look, whether you like them or not, in terms of they've not really gone down the safety route of their own PSR or financial situation, have they, Con? They've really spent the money there to try and, whether it's give the supporters or give the club the best possible chance of success, Con.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's well documented, obviously, that our wage to revenue ratio has been, 42% at the last set of accounts. The lowest in the Premier League by some way, versus Villa's, whose has been up at sort of 80 and 90%. So it's a complete difference in sort of relative ambition, which has obviously paid off for them. But I mean, I don't think any Tottenham fan were actually asking us to go to those sort of numbers. But should be no world where Villa are paying more in player wages than Tottenham, based on the sort of base financials of both clubs. We're double the size, right? So it is, and I think Ash just mentioned it about Villa being in the Championship. I think they were. They were in the Championship playoff final in the year we were in the Champions League final. So
mental.
The change you look at the trajectory of those two football clubs at that time.
Unbelievable.
It's crazy, and people then tell you that it's not about what you spend on wages or transfers. Well, it quite clearly is to some extent, right? You've got to get the recruitment right as well.
Yeah,
clearly, because we have, to be honest, since we moved into the new stadium, we have ramped up what we spent on transfers. I think the problem is we've not spent the wages with that.
Of course.
What you're always then signing is, almost to Luke's earlier point, your Richarlisons from Everton, your Solankis, who's had one good season from Bournemouth. So 60 million. So people go, oh, look, there's a lot of transfer spend there, but both of them are on 90, 100k a week. It's a very different proposition to going out and spending 67 million and paying that person 250 grand a week, who's a real top player. So that's why we are where we are.
Yeah, Luke, just want to close with you, Luke. I mean, I know people suggested as well. There is a worry about the amount of injuries we're picking up, Luke, right? And the systemic nature of what it's been over the last 12, 18 months. And again, we're at a point where we're 7 or 8 players out already and we're in January. Crazy, right? Difficult with injuries. Again, there's a sensitivity around what the club can release, what they can say, what Thomas Frank can say and can't say in press conferences. I mean, definitely Tottenham have become a lot more guarded, and the managers have become a lot more guarded, definitely, it feels, in the last 12, 18 months in terms of what they can tell us. But it's a worry in itself, isn't it, Luke, that the amount of injuries we pick up don't seem to be short-term. They seem to be long-term. And again, Kudus, another example of a player going down. Maybe it's bad luck. Maybe we are just unlucky, but this is a regular theme with Tottenham in terms of our injuries.
Yeah, but it's also players that are going down have played a hell of a lot of games. So, like Kulusevski played a hell of a lot. How Porro is the bionic man. He gets absolutely slaughtered in this fan base. And I just think, like, everyone keeps saying, so many people are saying, get him out. And I'm thinking, who do you generally think comes in if he comes out? Like, he plays every single game. You've got over the other side Udogie and Spence. And he's playing more games than both of them because they're now having Ben Davies cover that position as well. Like he just doesn't stop playing games. So it is absolutely crazy. But this goes back to, again, what I was saying. Everybody last year when it was Ange is the problem everywhere. I'm like, absolutely not. There's a problem in this club in every single department. We need to look at it across. It's almost like we'd only knew about injuries when Ange came in. It's like, this is a club that had Anderton, King, Lamella. Like, we've had injuries our whole existence almost. It's just that it's part of being a Tottenham fan. This is just part of being. But we need to get used to this. And when you talk about Villa as well, just going on to that point, just quickly. Yeah, it was like 90%, so it was double percentage wise about what we would pay. Sounds a little bit like there is to do, in my eyes. Just a little bit like if we go all out, we might get Champions League, which might make all of this worth it. Let's do a bit daring. Connor, I absolutely agree. I'm in no way saying that should be your barometer going forward. That should not be your template to run a football club. But it would be lovely if we did turn around and go, actually, like we were saying earlier about the January transfer window, I agree Semenyo is probably out of the way, but that kind of leads into what you're saying about Richarlison. You could spend 65 million on Semenyo, albeit a release clause, which I think is going to become more of the norm for top players now. I think they're going to go on longer contracts, but I think there's going to be more release clause that go into it. We would never have got Semenyo on the basis that we would have only have offered him 80 grand a week, whereas he's going for 65 million and probably on 200 grand a week. And there's the big difference. But I think this is all part, and it all leads into it. I keep saying it. Look, we're not trying to reinvent the wheel. We're not trying to do anything that no one else has done. Just look at the clubs that have been doing it well and follow what they do. And then when you start competing with them, you can try and be clever and try and work out ways of doing it better than them, but just try and match them. And that's what we need to do. Go and sign good players. Good players will demand good money. They'll be chased by other good clubs. And you need to sell an idea and a philosophy of what Spurs are gonna become. And the only worry that I've got is that when you speak to a lot of the players and a lot of the interviews that come out, it was Ange that was selling that. Levy was telling you about the club, and I can imagine the new ownership telling you about the club, but not. Yeah, Ange was like, I am winning trophies. I don't care. That is the be all and end all. Yeah. That's it. And I don't know whether we've got enough of that in this squad that are saying, look, we're going to become the best of the best. That's it. That's where we want to go. Like, who's having these conversations? I like Frank a lot. I like the way he is. But Langer is probably the one that starts these initial conversations. Is he saying, I'm taking Spurs to the very top? Like, is he saying that? I'm not so sure. So yeah, it is a difficult one. But January will be very, very revealing for Frank as one. But also players, I think it's a massive one. And going on to about replacing him, I don't think there's a great option out there. And again, when you talk about a plan, if the plan was if he was in danger in January, I would hope that they would have got rid of him just before January to bring someone in who can have a January to do what they want to do. Because I think that's part of the problem. As the guy said, if you get to middle of Feb and you're sacking him and bringing someone else in, what are they now meant to do with a squad that's been put together for a manager that do you go and play the attacking style that a lot of the players had last year, or the defensive style, which all of the players are used to playing now? You're kind of in between again. So I think they're going to try their very best to get to the end of the season, reevaluate. If the wheels don't fall off, then they can do that, and they'll give them every chance to get to but there's no point giving him till the summer if you're not going to back him now. If you're not going to bring good players in, then what are we doing here, as everyone says.
Yeah, well, it's over to you, Enoch. It's over to you, Enoch. I want to say a massive thank you to this wonderful panel. What a powerful show it's been. Great show. Ash, thank you so much over at Spurs Kings TV. Make sure you like and subscribe over there. We'll see a lot of Ash during these graveyard shifts in these transfer window updates. How much have we talked about transfers on the show? Very little. That's your updates. Connor over at Lebanomics 1882. Our greatest to have Con back on the show. Con, we look forward to seeing you more over this period, mate. Thank you so much. You've been a superstar. And of course, Luke over at Spotlight on Spurs. He is quite literally Archie Gray, but in a washing machine, being reeled in, reeled out wherever we go. As always, thanks so much to the thousands that always tune in and give us amazing support. Let's see what Tottenham are going to do from us all. Keep safe, keep well, and as always,